بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
In the discussions that I have about the fourth Imam, in the many years that I have spent with you, I have been emphasizing and focusing on the issue of the shuja'at and the courage of the Imam, in order to dispel this myth that we have on a subconscious level of Abid Bimar. It's good for Marsiya and Sher Shairi, but it's not good to have that image of the Imam as an Bimar all the time in our subconscious level. He was shuja, he was courageous, whether he was in Kufa or in Sham. Because courage does not always mean doing jihad, be safe and with the sword. There are different dimensions of jihad. One is bil lisan, by your speech and your talk. Other is by bil ilm, by knowledge. And there is another dimension of jihad, bil akhlaq, by your character and the way you behave with others, especially those who are your enemies. And Imam was a true mujahid in that sense, in all those dimensions of jihad. Tonight I would like to talk about one less known aspect of his jihad, which is not discussed that much, and that is about his fight and jihad against deviation in the society after Karbala. And we are not talking about the Shia community, we are talking about the Ummah in general. When we talk about the deviation in thought as well as in practice. When it comes to the bid'at in the aqidah and the thought of Islam, you know, if you look at the process of du'as that we have from our fourth Imam in the name of As-Sahifa Sajjadiyya, if you really look at that, the way he talks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that was one way of trying to reform the deviations which were there in the minds of the people about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and about the Prophet of Islam and the status of the Ahlul Bayt, and more so about the relationship between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the human beings. We have talked about Sayyid Sajjad many times, also about his Risalatul Huquq. But what I would like to talk tonight is about a major deviation which had been initiated by one of the rulers during the time of our fourth Imam. Muawiyah is the founder, Yazid is the second one, and then that line of Ali Abu Sufyan comes to an end. And because Muawiyah bin Yazid refused, this is where another elder member of Banu Umayyah, Marwan bin Hakam, now takes over the Khilafat. And this itself is a very powerful sign that, you know, Yazid could do whatever was within his power. But Zainab and Imam Zainul Abidin basically, you know, shook the foundations of the Ali Abu Sufyan dynasty that it could not survive anymore. And after, now Marwan ibn Hakam, he is the son-in-law of the third Khalifa. But he ruled only for 1 year, year 64 to 65 of the Hijrah. Then his son, Abdul Malik bin Marwan, comes to power. And this fellow lived for 21 years as a Khalifa. It was a long time period. And this is the imamat of our fourth Imam. It is Abdul Malik bin Marwan who started a bid'at. And you will be surprised when you will see that if this had continued, you know, Muslim Ummah would have been in total chaos. Now Abdul Malik bin Marwan, he had a problem. Because by the time he comes to power, Abdullah bin Zubayr, one of the three who has opposed Yazid, was now established in Mecca. He had controlled Mecca, started appointing his own officers, not only in Mecca but even in the surrounding areas. A time even came where he was able to even control Iraq for a time. And this is after the revenge activities taken by Mukhtar bin Ubaidullah Saqafi, and there was a conflict between Abdullah bin Zubair, his forces, and Mukhtar, in which Mukhtar was killed. And so Zubair was started to extend his control in Hijaz, Mecca, Medina, as well as in southern parts, some parts of Iraq. And for Abdul Malik bin Marwan, Abdullah bin Zubair was a problem. But the bigger problem was that Abdullah bin Zubair had his main headquarters in Mecca. And every year people go to Mecca for Hajj. Abdul Malik bin Marwan didn't want the people of Sham and Egypt to go to Mecca for Hajj, because he knew that the way we have, brainwashed the people in this region, if they go there, spend more time there, Abdullah bin Zubair and his agents are there, aggressively looking for outsiders to convince them of his, stand and his ideas. And so what does Abdul Malik bin Marwan do? This is the biggest bid'ah that he started. He said, we will change the location of Hajj. And what was the other location of Hajj that he selected? He is ruling absolutely the area known as Sham. When we use the term Sham, till the Second War, when the Ottoman Empire collapsed, whenever the word Sham is used in history, it's not only the present-day Syria, it includes Lebanon, Jordan, as well as entire Palestine. So Abdul Malik bin Marwan now decided that I will ask the people of Sham and Egypt to go for Hajj, not to Mecca, because my rival is there. I will ask them to go to Jerusalem. And it's Abdul Malik bin Marwan who actually ordered the Dome of the Rock, Qubbatul Sakhra, to be built. Even now, go and look at history, and I'm told even the inscription, even now there inside, talks about the year 71 of the Hijrah, that this rock of the Dome of the Rock was built. This whole structure was built under the command of Abdul Malik bin Marwan. He even invested a lot of money to make Jerusalem a clean place, a beautiful place. And people from Sham and Egypt started going there. This building that you see with the golden dome and circular building, they used to do tawaf there. They used to do qurbani over there. What kind of a person Abdul Malik bin Marwan was? How does the Imam of the time deal with that serious bid'at and deviation in his time? Abdul Malik bin Marwan his character was one of the worst among Banu Umayyah. The day he becomes Khalifa, when his father died, Marwan, and his people came to him to greet him as the new Khalifa, at that time who was sitting with the Quran in his lap. As soon as they address him with the title of Khalifa, he closed the Quran and he says, هذا فراق بيني وبينك. Firaq means this is the separation between me and you. As long as I was not a Khalifa, I was reading you. Now that I am going to become a Khalifa now, I have nothing to do with you. هذا فراق بيني وبينك. This is the mentality of so-called successor of the seat of Khilafat now. And his first speech that he gives after burying his father, where in the beginning he says, I'm not going to become a weak Khalifa like Usman. not a diplomatic Khalifa like Muawiyah. You know, he says, I'm going to be a strong Khalifa. And at the end he says, وَاللَّهِ لَا يَأْمُرُنِي أَحَدٌ بَعْدَ يَوْمِ هَذَا بِتَقْوَى اللَّهِ. That by Allah, no one from you will ever now advise me about taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala إِلَّا ضَرَبْتُ أُنُقُهُ. But that I will actually kill him. What does Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam do in such a socio-political environment which is suffocating? Already they have gone through the tragedy of Karbala. And this is where Imam, the way he has started the process of azadari, in such a way that he did what he wanted to do without giving an excuse to the enemy. Similarly, when it came to educate the people about the aqidah and the beliefs, dua was used as a method, which seems very neutral. Imam basically started talking and emphasizing the issue of Makkah and Hajj. Imam did not only stop with words. He emphasized Hajj in practice. He went for Hajj more than 20 times. 20 we know when he went riding on the camel. But there were many times he actually went to Hajj, all the way from Medina to Mecca, walking. And this tradition of going for Hajj in this way became actually an annual event, a ritual. There were many scholars among the Muslims, not necessarily Shia, the Qurra, those who had memorized the Quran, those who were teachers of the Quran. They would actually wait for the day when Imam will start his journey from Medina to Mecca, to be with him in that caravan. One of the irony of history is that not only the Shias have not really understood the impact of the work that Imam Zainul Abidin had done, especially because of this subconscious image of an Imam who was a weak person. No, he was only bimar on the day of Ashura at that time. That was how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to preserve Imamat to be in that line of Hussein bin Ali. So you have the lectures, you have his writings, Risalat al-Huquq, Sayyid Sajjadiyya, you know, this whole process of the institution of azadari that we have till now. This is something started by him. And then you have this struggle in order to maintain the sanctity of Hajj and Masjid al-Haram and Kaaba against this bid'ah by Abdul Malik bin Marwan. And Imam did it in such a way that he was successful. This is a jihad, not through sword, but by his wisdom, by his action, and by his knowledge and his akhlaq. Yet there were people. You know, we have in every era people who think that you can only be successful and fulfill your duty by always just shouting and by taking up arms. There are no other ways of dealing with things. You know, if you look at his process after the events of Karbala, Imam started this azab by just crying. And the process of crying for the family was such that even the government wasn't really concerned. They said, well, you know, his family has been killed. Why should we go after him and stop him from that? They didn't realize that this will become an institution for something which is going to last for centuries. Where is Medina and where is Toronto? Where is the 60th year of Hijrah, and this is 1436. Distance-wise, time-wise, this institution is growing and growing and growing. Nobody can stop it. And this was something which was started by our Imam.